I wanted to share a little tutorial on how to use serverless and DynamoDB on AWS to create a very simple Telegram bot in TypeScript. It's based off of a few tutorials that I've seen online, but I haven't seen something that's fleshed out as this. Starting with the serverless YAML, we're just defining a very simple CloudFormation template here with just one single function. This function is going to be the entry point for the Telegram bot. It's basically one single handler that's going to handle all the messages coming into the bot. We're just going to call it Webhook. It's going to be inside the index module. This is the function here. What's nice about TypeScript is that we're going to get all of the types from the API Gateway proxy into the Lambda. The event is everything's going to be nice and typed. We can know what's going on. That's the biggest advantage over JavaScript here. It does make the code a little bit more verbose, but it actually works out much better in the end. The serverless schema really has just this one function. We have to add this plugin for TypeScript to actually compile the TypeScript into JavaScript before it's going to be deployed. That needs to be added here. And I'm defining a very simple DynamoDB table here with just a couple of parameters and a little bit of an index to allow for querying and changing contents of that table. But most of the attributes are not going to be listed here. It doesn't matter really. This is just for indexing. We're going to store for our simple bot here is going to handle to-dos. And so there's going to be like a message and so on. That's just going to be on the body of the message, and it doesn't come up here in serverless. But that's basically it. It's very simple. Adding another role here and just giving the DynamoDB table as an environment variable. It's going to be picked up by the handler of the bot. This is the entry point to the bot. This is where all of the Telegram messages are going to come in, and we're going to have to handle them. One thing to do is just to take the body. The body's going to have the message and the chat ID and everything, parse that. And then what I've been using is no Telegram bot API. It's actually a very nice abstraction or a very nice package for building Telegram bots in JavaScript and TypeScript. Using that API, I am basically going to parse the message and send it into the bot for processing. Now, in other tutorials, you would see that the bot in here, the Telegram bot, is used directly. But since we're using a Lambda function from AWS, we're going to have to parse the message that comes from Telegram and then use the process update function on the Node Telegram bot API to then run the actual commands that the bot is responding to. We're going to have to parse that and send that in, and this is going to call all the other functions. Now, I have a bunch more things going on here. We'll get to that in a moment. But what this gives us is a very convenient API for handling things like last messages, commands that the bot will support. And for this, for example, for our to-dos example, the slash to-dos will just list out all the to-dos, like current to-dos and so on. I'm also using try catch. This is a good tip because working in Telegram, you're not going to get much logging unless you actually send it back to the Telegram channel. So using try catch and always sending the error back to the user makes a lot of sense. Try using that. To-dos is basically going back to our DynamoDB. It's going to fetch everything, print it out, and then send it out to our user on the Telegram chat. I also have an add here and a remove here, fairly standard boilerplate part, and everything's going to be up on the GitHub repo for this. So check this out in there as well. Right now, the bot is almost ready to go. All we're missing is the token that we get from BotFather. I already went ahead and did that ahead of time, and BotFather actually gave me this token for this bot. I'm just gonna paste it in and save this here. And basically, this is going to be ready to go. Let's just discuss one last thing. The Lambda as they run, the AWS Lambdas as they run and coming in, they're not going to wait for anything that's happening. If we had it just straightforward like this, the message is coming in, and then I'm going to ask the bot to process the update. It turns out that the Telegram bot here is actually an event queue, and this is not going to actually do anything, and it's going to return immediately. It's just going to queue a few things on the queue and then immediately return. And what happens is that our Lambda is going to run this and immediately break, and then anything that happens later is basically thrown out. And you may be tempted to do this directly like that, but then nothing would happen on the Lambda and you'll be very confused. One thing to notice is that we have to wait for this to end. And this is what I did here with this promise. I'm actually creating a new promise that will only resolve after everything that the bot needs to do has actually resolved. So this is going to queue the messages on there. I'm going to save this promise as resolve in a global variable that then I'm later going to call after I'm done, for example, calling my to-dos and say knowing to-dos found, and I'm going to call this and resolve that. Or if I have to-dos, I'm going to send this to the user and then resolve the promise. And what that's going to actually release this part of code and then go back in here and finish the actual Lambda call. Also adding a timeout here for 3 seconds in case that this bot actually is confused about the message, doesn't know what to do with it. This is going to resolve anyway after 3 seconds if the bot hasn't done anything with it. But you actually may want to do some more parsing here for body. For example, you want to check if a message, for example, contains an actual message, because sometimes your bot will get a lot of messages that really have nothing to do. It's not an actual command. It's maybe someone joined the channel or a new channel was created and so on, and your bot's going to want to respond to those, and this resolution will never be called because none of these functions will ever be called, and it'll be stuck. So actually adding a timeout here makes a lot of sense as well. All right, and just returning 200 here, just to respond to Telegram that the bot is actually picked up on this. This has to happen, or else Telegram will try to send the message over and over and over until the bot actually responds with a 200 status. All right, this is pretty much done here. The only thing left to do is actually deploy this. I already have run serverless deploy, but the next thing that we need to do after this thing has been deployed on AWS is to set the webhook for Telegram, telling it where to go. Actually, after running deploy, you're going to get this HTTPS endpoint post from for the bot, and that's going to be, you're going to have to attach it to your bot. This is the token from the bot, and this is your URL. All of this actually is written out in the README, so check that out there. But that you're going to have to run this for the bot to actually pick up on that webhook. All right, that's all running, and I can show it to it working. Right now the bot has no to-dos. We can add and now we have this. We can actually remove. All right. See, it's working. Let's take a peek at AWS. We're going to see a Lambda function here, Telegram Serverless TS Bot Tutorial, and that's going to be hooked up to an API gateway, which we'll look at in a moment. That's going to be the code and everything. And we can actually see in the logs a couple of our messages that just came in now for me just speaking with the bot. We see this in here. We can look at CloudWatch to see what happened. And I have a little console log there that sends out the message or logs out the message. And I'm going to see here text to dos and maybe some of the other ones. This one had a typo. All right, so it's coming in, it's logged in our Lambda function, so we can see things going on, and actually a very good debugging tool to use this. This is going to be our API gateway. We have a new API here called the TS bot, and we get the webhook with just the post. And one other good debugging tool is to use this test from the API gateway. Taking a look at DynamoDB, we have our table here with a few items. Right now the items is 0. Let's add something to our DB. There is our item. DynamoDB is on. And so we're pretty much ready with this bot. It's working as you've seen, and everything is set up on AWS. All right, so check this out on GitHub and download it and start your own bot.